Okay, here's number 41. Hopefully you read it. If you haven't, stop the video and take a minute to read this problem. Anyway, we're going to look at the 1.6% margin of error. Is it right? So first of all, we need that z-score. We're using a 95% confidence interval. Now I put 0.975 into the inverse norm, and I got 1.96. So we're going to start with that. 1.96. Now we're going to multiply that by the standard deviation. Let's figure out what that is. So I got 0.008 for the standard deviation. So this should be approximately 1.6, but let's check it. So my answer is 0.01568. So if we round it up, 1.6 is pretty close. Right there. Move the decimal place over. 1.6% margin of error. Yes, that would work. But we've got other issues. For instance, so using this data, but is this standard deviation correct? Well, they don't use a simple random sample on this, so we can't really be sure about a proper cross-section of the population. So we can't really use that standard deviation. And letter B, is the station's conclusion justified? Not really, because it's, well, it's a voluntary response. So none of this stuff would be valid. So A and B, there you go. Okay, this is like the one we did at the end of class. So read it, and here we go. How large a sample must you test to estimate the proportion within 4 percentage points? 90% confidence. Okay, so first I'm going to start with getting that z-score for 90% confidence. Inverse norm of 0.95. So that's 1.65. So let's start with that. 1.65. Now we are going to multiply that by the standard deviation. So the standard deviation is going to be, and they give us the proportion this time. So it's 0.75 times 0.25 divided by, we don't know. That's what we're trying to figure out. And it's going to be, what does it say? Within 4 percentage points. So we want this number to be less than or equal to 0.04. So now we do the algebra to figure that out. So first, we are going to divide each side by 1.65, which I just did. And I did two things. I multiplied those two together to get that number. Now what do we got to do? Well, we got to square both sides to get rid of that square root. So we end up with this. Multiply both sides by n. So that tells us that n is over here now. And then divide this number into that number, and you should have your sample size. We'll get n by itself. And the answer works out to be about 320.5. So we're going to go with a sample size of 321. So that's letter A. Now I just looked, the back of the book says the answer is 318. But I think what happened is that there was a rounding thing. Where would it be? Oh, I just found it. It's right here. See, I use 1.65, and they use 1.645, and that's where the discrepancy is. But close enough, right? It's just statistics. Now, if you do the same process where it's 0.5, this is where that changes. Do the same exact thing, except do 0.5 and 0.5. And that will give you your other answer. Okay, on this one, similar to the last one, we've got to figure the sample size, except we have the sample size. This time we're going to figure out the confidence level. So that's the part that's left out. We do it the same way. Let me show you. So here's all the information they give us. 60, 64%, so there's that. Minus 1, there's that. There's the sample size. We don't know what the z-score is, but we know we got to figure this out, so we're going to do some algebra. So I did all this stuff for the standard deviation, and here it is. So I'm going to take this and divide it into that number, which gets z by itself, and hopefully it's a number that I recognize. Ha! So that's, I should have seen that actually. That's pretty close to 0.15. So divide that in there, and our z is 2. Z-score is equal to 2. 2 standard deviations. So pretty close to 95%, wouldn't you think? So I'm going to go with a 95% confidence level. 95%. There you go. So, letter B. Give an example of practical difficulty that could lead to bias results in your survey. Well, we are working with people from 13 to 17 years old, and they are notoriously unreliable when it comes to surveys. I'm sorry, but it's true. Okay, there you go. That's the answer to letter B.